So start off with apologies for absences is Councillor North and Councillor Woodhead. Declarations of interest. Is there any pecuniary interests to declare for anyone? Nope. Any non-pecuniary interests? No. Okay, public open session. To adjourn for a period of up to 15 minutes to allow members of the public to put questions or to address the council through the chairman pertaining to matters listed on the agenda. There's no one here. Do we have anyone online? No? Okay. Right, invited speaker. Can we have Mr. Aidan Jones, Director of Jones Fitness? Welcome.
Are we on? There we go. All feels very formal. Firstly, thanks very much for seeing me today. For those of you that don't know me, I know some of you I've met. I'm Aidan Jones. I'm the Director of Jones's Fitness in Biggleswade Gym. We've been there for just over 10 years now. So yeah, we're fairly established. The reason why I'm here today is to discuss and hopefully go through the potential of having a 5K in Biggleswade. So I've given you all a handout. As you can see, the proposal for me, from my point of view, I'd love to start in the town centre. I think that will give the opportunity for a lot of people to come and view it and cheer people on and get the community behind it. So as you can see, lots of other towns do it. Sandy, St Neots, Hitchin, Baldock, Stevenage, etc. They all do it, and we have nothing here. So I think it's time that we really need to get something in place for the community to encourage people to get fit and healthy. I've been trying to do this for 5 or 6 years now, and I've met a few of you around the table. It hasn't gone to plan. COVID sort of cocked that up a little bit, but hopefully I'm here now, looking at May next year as a potential date, and any support that I can get given or advice would be greatly appreciated. So, like I say, the bank Sunday or Monday for the 26th or 27th of May next year, that would be ideal for me, and for hopefully the people taking part. Like I said, ideally we'd have the town centre closed off. I've run a few routes, some potential routes. We either do 2.5 kilometre laps, or we do 1 5-kilometre lap. Depending on what comes back to me today and what can and can't be done, that will sort of make a difference on the route, obviously. So with regards to help and advice from everyone sitting around this table, grants would be great, not necessary, but it's the support around logistics, about what we can do in the town centre, about any potential road closes, and anything with promotion, marketing, St John's Ambulance, etc., etc. So yeah, that is it in a nutshell. Anybody have any questions or concerns or?
Right, thank you very much for that, Aidan. Okay, to the floor. Councillor Agnew.
Aidan, hello, thank you very much. I just wonder about the choice of the date, because I know for a fact that there are other marathons and half marathons going on exactly on that day. Because I'm applying for one. So.
You've got one, have you?
Oh. Not yet.
Well, typically the London Marathon is
April.
Yeah, it's April, so it could be a good sort of wind down for some people. To be honest, I'm not really worried about other competitors. I think it should be for the people of Biggleswade. In the last 2 months, I've run Hitchin and I've done the Baldock 5K. Haven't seen anyone that I knew there, so I think it should be about the people in the town, to be honest.
And the good weather. Yeah, that's
yeah, that was part of it, and obviously the route, looking at using
Yeah.
some of the green wheel, hopefully won't be too flooded. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Councillor Foster.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Aidan. Thanks for coming. Thanks for this. As we spoke about, the idea of fun and run together don't necessarily suit me, but they will suit others. One of the things that does strike me, obviously, we're trying to target not necessarily fitness fanatics. I think it's quite, it's a great idea to try and generate interest and actually to be a sort of a fun event. Similar concerns around whether what's the right date, whether it's the Sunday or the Monday. I think perhaps we can work through that. But certainly, I think that the town council could be in a position to offer some sort of support one way or the other. We just need to work our way through that, what it looks like logistically, whether there's any financial support we're able to offer at some point around licensing as well. So I think there's work to be done before we get to May. But I think it probably would need to come back either to this committee again in a bit more detail, or it may have to come to council, depending on what other members think. But it's certainly something that's worth very much considering for all the reasons you've laid out in the report here. So thank you for that.
So, I mean, I totally agree with Councillor Foster there. I mean, we could certainly look to put it in a future agenda for discussion and debate, and then go from there. Councillor Thomas, please.
I know Drink do a lot of running. Have you thought of tying in with them and asking them to get involved, or
already have?
Even some of the drunk. Yeah, okay. So
yeah, I have. Yeah, I'm quite close
like
with Adam. So yeah, he's on board, and as are other businesses as well. So I think I mentioned in here, Johnny from the Surfing Cafe. He said he'd sponsor us and provide water bottles. But if I get the go ahead, I'll speak to Jordan's. Hopefully they'll be able to donate some, cereal bars or something, and they might want to put their name behind it. So
I think it's a good idea though, because where I came from in the north east, we used to have a fun run around the streets when we used to go out and clap and applaud, and some days the weather wasn't so good. So
well, that's obviously the risk.
We ended up handing out blankets, but they go. Yeah. So weather permitting, but that was tend to be later on in the year, so it wasn't so good. But you get the odd silly thunderstorm, don't you? Is it?
The plan was always just to go ahead and do it. So yeah. I will do it regardless if it's in the town centre or starting in a field somewhere. However, I feel like it should be started in the town centre, and it should be a community event.
Could be a good event. Yeah, I'm all for it, I think.
Right, thank you. Councillor Strawn.
I like the idea, but financially, you're charging an entry fee. Who's going to keep the entry fees? Who's going to be bearing the expenses? And I notice you've also got some ideas about the market square, which to my mind makes it quite attractive, and that might be something that we as a council would be looking to do. But first and foremost, if there's a cost to this, and then there's going to be some money hopefully made and making a profit, who's going to keep it?
Good question. I mean, when I first put it out there, it was happy to donate towards the town or to charity. And that still might be the case, but I've spent a lot of time and effort on this already, and there's been barrier after barrier. So as much as, I'm happy to do this and I want to do it for the town, we need to cover all our costs as well. But that said, I don't think it will necessarily be that costly. We can do all the bookings for our systems that we have already. We already have insurance in place. So yeah, I think we're covered there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So Councillor Strawn stole my question in some ways, because I was also wondering where any surplus would go. I think the idea is a brilliant idea. I think it would be a lot easier for the town council to support if any surplus did go to charity. So obviously everyone involved should recover their costs, but if it does generate a profit, then I think, at least for me, that would be an important element of it. Yeah, sure. But I think it's definitely worth getting into deeper conversations.
Councillor Olben.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and it's definitely worth investigating and pursuing. So the town council is used to getting involved in the organisation of things like Big Eat or Big Eat, whatever it's called, the food festival that takes place every so often. So that's kind of similar to what you're suggesting here with the food trucks in the town. So I'm sure there's some cooperation that can happen there, and some organisation that the town council can get involved in.
And finally, councillor Skilton, please.
Yeah, hi, yeah. So just with the routes you've considered, have you contacted CBC about this and looked at what might be required in terms of road closures and marshalling and things like that?
I originally met with Central Beds Council years ago to discuss this, and it's just sort of gone backwards and forwards. So from what I gather, and you will obviously correct me if I'm wrong, we can, or you guys can close the town centre. Is that correct?
Something maybe Isaac can comment on?
We can close the market square itself. When it comes to the roads, we still have to put road closure requests through CBC, but generally they're always accepted.
Thank you.
So back to the question, I think, no, I haven't as of yet spoke to CBC, but when I did the Hitchin one, there was a few more road closures there, but with the Baldock one, there were marshals everywhere and you're kind of running on and off the road. And I don't know if you go to page 1, first page, you can see it starts in the town centre there, and we go down to Hitchin Street and then across to Mill Lane. Now that's crossing at a zebra crossing there. So if you have 3 or 4 marshals, we can obviously hold the traffic. It would be a Sunday morning as well, bank holiday. So again, it'd be super quiet, we'd hope. Again, this is dependent if we get the go ahead. What I don't want to do is spend loads and loads of time putting effort into this route and planning this route if we can't start in the town centre. It's a bit of a waste of energy. So that's I've had a few thoughts. I've looked at the town centre a few times. That makes sense to me. Going down that short route past Maxwell's, turning right and over onto the Green Wheel. And where we go from there depends if it's a 2.5k route or a 5k route.
Okay, and final question, Councillor Thomas.
Is the intention to be running on the roads, especially down Shortmead Street, because that's not a great road to run down?
No, that'll be on the path.
On the path?
Yeah, yeah.
One more, Councillor Alban.
Yeah, looking at the route that you've got on the right hand side there, where it goes beyond the A1, are you looking at cattle arches to? Are you looking at the cattle arches to go under the A1?
Cattle arches.
Yeah, the things you have to duck.
Oh, those things. Yeah, yeah. That. Yeah.
I was just wondering if that.
It's not ideal.
It's
not ideal. But the issue is obviously with when someone does a 2.5 or a 5k run, they want it to be roughly 5k or bang on 5k, especially if they're timed themselves. And you can appreciate there's only a certain amount of paths that you're playing with and routes. So that's why the one on the left is the ideal scenario.
Councillor Strawn.
Chairman, may I make a suggestion? I think I get the feeling that the members here generally in favour of this in principle. Possibly the thing to do would be for it just to go to council to confirm the agreement in principle that we should actually go along with this request subject to satisfactory conditions, and then with a request that Mr Jones meets with the place shaping manager to go through the detail and answer the questions from our own experience from the permissions, help and guidance, so that we can see what the way forward is before we come to an ultimate decision. But I think that I get the feeling that we like it in principle. Let's see if we can make it work, but that is going to involve further discussions. But I think the council should agree that we agree it in principle and then take it from the detail from there.
Thank you. I agree to that. So will that be noted? Okay. Yep.
Just the fact that actually council is probably the way to go, because the next TCM meeting isn't until the 17th of February. So we're too far, sorry, 20th of February. So we're too far ahead. I think it needs to come to council to actually pursue this. Otherwise you won't have enough time to get organised.
Yeah, can I just jump in there? Yep. Ideally, we'd be promoting this on January the 1st. We'd start to put the feelers out there now, but you know, we'll be promoting Couch to 5Ks, and we'll do that for free through our platform. So to try and encourage local people to get fit, and then they've got a few months leading up to May. So ideally, we're going to do something anyway, whether that's in the town centre or starting in a field. But ideally we'd need a decision sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much. We'll get that. We'll try and get that on our agenda for the council. All right. Thank you for coming in, Aidan. Thanks. Okay. Next item, number 7. Check the minutes for accuracy. Sorry. Oh, sorry, number 6. Members' questions. Is there any members' questions? No? Excellent. Right, now, minutes and recommendations of meetings to check for accuracy. Right, yeah. So if we can start from page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, and page 9. So is everybody comfortable with me signing that that's accurate? Yep, excellent, thank you. And any matters arising? Page 5. Page, oh, sorry. Oh, page 6. Councillor Skilton.
It was item 5. Just have we got an update on buses for the interchange? Because I know we met with Grant Palmer, and I may have missed something, but I don't know if there's been an outcome as to when there might be buses using the interchange.
I am not aware. I'm not sure if Peter or Isaac.
No, I don't have any further update. Following that meeting with Grant Palmer and CBC, I emailed the colleagues that were in attendance with our bus routes proposal, and I'm still waiting to hear back.
Thank you.
Just add to that?
Yeah,
Chair?
sure.
Okay, this was brought up with the new assistant director at CBC last week and was escalated also to the director Lorna Carver. So it's certainly on their antennae.
All right, thank you. Okay, matters arising page 7, page 8, and page 9. Excellent. So everybody okay for me to sign these? Yeah, excellent. Right. Okay, so now we have number 9 items for consideration. 9A, the community safety page. There's a report by the place shaping manager. Is there anything that you need to add prior to the report?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just apologies for not having included any screenshots. I've had a couple of questions from members about this, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay. I believe the report recommends that the officers agree to make the web page live. Oh, sorry, is there any questions before we go to that? Sorry, Councillor Alban.
Yeah, I don't know if this is quite appropriate for a community safety web page, but it's kind of the, so recently there have been incidents with cows invading people's gardens, and I believe it was quite difficult to get hold of the Fenreaves, so I'm just suggesting that Fenreaves' contact details might appear there or elsewhere on the website.
Right, okay. Is that, do we do that, add that on?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Strawn?
Yes, Chairman, I'm afraid this report frightens me. I am really alarmed at the comments about members of the public accessing certain services such as CCTV footage. That is not what CCTV is here for. It is basically to protect the public and for the police. To have the members of the public being able to access CCTV is totally and utterly wrong, in my view. I think it's probably a breach of GDPR and personal information. And if this is the suggestion, as it appears to be from that, I am totally against that part of it going onto any web page or at all. It's ironically, it's a discussion that when CCTV first came to this council, was brought in the 90s, if I remember it correctly. A similar suggestion was made that members of the public should be able to access CCTV. Now, the thought of members of the public, husbands, wives, partners, etc., going to asking access to CCTV is totally and utterly wrong. Probably doesn't mean that, but I think we need a little bit better understanding of what is actually proposed here, because if members of the public can access CCTV, that I think is totally and utterly wrong.
Sure. Okay, I think I'll ask Place Shaping Manager to.
Apologies, it's not about the public accessing the CCTV, it's pointing them in the right direction for making requests for CCTV evidence to obviously go to the police and the other authorised parties. So it would be signposting them to our supplier.
So forgive me for being a bit dense here. So it's not about members of the public accessing it, it's just so that they can advise the police that say that they've been burgled and that the police should be looking to go to the Hart CCTV to get access. I think that's totally unnecessary, but is that what's intended?
Yes, I mean, I've had a couple of queries since I've been employed by the council from residents that have had issues in the town centre and are requesting CCTV footage. I've directed them to log it with the police and then use the Hart CCTV request form to get police the footage. That's the process that the supplier has explained to me.
Okay, so I guess there will be some sort of protocol like there is for requesting things under the Freedom of Information Act, etc. So it's going to be a straight case of requesting CCTV of something and then them divulging it, right?
Yeah, ultimately it all goes through Hart CCTV. We don't touch the footage. We don't view it.
All right, Councillor Skilton, please.
Yeah, just on that, it's my understanding that if you're filmed by CCTV, you have a right to view that footage under a subject access request, and we're obliged to provide customers with a way to make that request. And so there will be cases when members of the public should and must be able to view CCTV footage if they are within the frame of that footage.
Thank you. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So I've had a look at the draft web page, or most of it anyway, and I think it looks good. Obviously, there's a bit of detail here with the CCTV, which it sounds like we need to dig into, because there are reasons why people might reasonably need to pass footage to, I don't know, their insurance companies or something, without it necessarily being a police matter. You can imagine if the two cars have a minor accident, the insurance companies want to see the evidence. It's not really a police matter. So there are other circumstances, but it does need to be covered. So I think I'm going to make a proposal. So can I propose that we adopt the recommendation to make the website live with minimal content around the CCTV, and that we do actually officers bring forward or the current CCTV disclosure policy so we can understand how that works, because it sounds like it's something we need to dig into at a future date, but I don't think it needs to hold up putting the bulk of the website live.
Do we have someone to second that motion? Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Okay, shall we go to the vote? All those in favour of Councillor Knight's proposal? And against? Thank you. Okay, item 9B, the car parking permit policy. Again, by the place shaping manager. Any
No comments.
no comments to make. Any questions? Councillor Knight, please.
I've read it briefly. I think it looks good. The only question I have is, I think on these draft policies, we need to agree when they will be reviewed next. So I don't think it's there, is it, what the review date would be? So can I propose that if we adopt the policy, the review date is 2 years?
Any further questions? Councillor Skilton?
Yeah, I've just got a few sort of comments really that might need to be looked at in terms of the final wording. So basically where it says we reserve the right to limit the number of permits issued to prioritise allocations according to demand and location. I think the policy probably should state what our minimum would be, maybe as a percentage of the number of bays in a car park, because if we've got car parks that shops and businesses rely on, if they're full of residents cars, that's obviously not ideal. So just to sort of on the wording, it's bullet point number 7, where the purchase of a permit does not guarantee the availability of a parking space. It also says it does not allow you to park on double or single yellow line or any on-street residence bays. I think that should probably say any other parking place as well, because that kind of, you know, by saying where they can't park, it might imply where they could park, and you know, people will you know, use loopholes to appeal charge and things like that. So it says, this is bullet point number 13, if any proof of documents are out of date or incorrect, you'll be notified to update these immediately. If you do not meet the requirements, your permit may be cancelled. Now, is that out of date when they apply, or if they go out of date during the life of the permit?
I'm not sure. It would be whichever we could update the sentence to make it whichever is the more appropriate way of dealing with it.
So it says, bullet point number 14, the user of the vehicle by consent of the registered owner, that should be registered keeper. The owner, someone may own the vehicle, but the keeper is the person who's legally responsible for it. So item 15, if an expired permit is used beyond its expiry date, BTC has a discretion to charge the proportional cost of permit depending on permit category plus an additional fee as a fine. And then the bullet point after that, for all misuse of permits, BT has a discretion to charge a fine. Under what power might we issue that fine, and you know, what's the value of it, and you know, that kind of thing, because that sounds like enforcement, and really CBC do all our enforcement. And if people are misusing permits, then that would probably come under fraud rather than a parking contravention, and that's how a lot of other local authorities would deal with it. So we don't actually, I don't think we say if we limit the number of parking permits per household, might that be something we need to consider? And also, might we need to consider where some of these blocks of flats mentioned, if they've got a section 106 agreement on them that makes them what they call a car-free development, where they're not entitled to permits from CBC. If we're issuing them permits, might that be watering down that planning condition and the reasons for that planning condition to be applied? Oh, just the various evidence we ask for. I think that needs to be in the policy, what we'll accept as evidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have that bit.
Okay.
Sorry.
One more then. And so operational permits, I don't think that needs to be in this policy. That's like a staffing issue. And market traders permits, there seems to only be one term and condition, where all the others have got quite a few, and it just, I don't know if some of those might need to be transferred across to market traders. I mean, I'm happy to, you know, work with officers if needs be. Obviously, this is my day job.
Go for it, Isaac.
I had included the documents that are required on page 15.
Oh, sorry.
And then with respect to market trader permits, the section at the top of the T's and C's applies to all types of permits. So the market trader permit, one bullet point, is in addition to the however many on the previous page.
Okay.
Thanks.
Councillor Strawn?
Yes, I may have missed it, but I couldn't see any reference to someone changing a vehicle during the period of a permit, because the 12-month period, someone may well change their car. That doesn't seem to be covered by this. I appreciate that we might charge an administration fee of, say, £10 or something for that, but I think there should be somewhere in the policy reference so that when people change their cars, which some will undoubtedly do, that they can obtain a permit for the new vehicle without being penalised, other than the fact that there will be an administration fee that would be charged.
Do we have things in place for, or will there be?
Councillor Strawn's very much right. It's not included in the policy, but it should be.
No, sorry, I've actually noticed that it now, item 4, I think.
Right, any further questions? Councillor Holbein.
Yeah, on the first page, page 15, it's talking about resident permits for the Dan Elton car park, and it lists Riverside Court and explains in the preamble why that might be. But there are other places around there as well, like Northgate Court. So I don't know if there have been any inquiries from residents there, and I don't know if it is a problem, but I'm just pointing out there are other places, although that is covered elsewhere in that officers can consider on a case-by-case basis for addresses not in the list. So that's one thing. And on page 17, under worker permits, the last bullet point, towards the end it says, and should surrender their permit. There's different wording elsewhere which says must, and I think must is probably better than should.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Foster, and then we'll go to the vote.
So I've got a couple of comments in relation to the applicable car park. So the first thing relates to St Andrews. Currently, we don't have workers allowed to park in St Andrews, which, given the sort of proximity to particularly Hitchin Street, we've got workers that work in Hitchin Street. Their closest car park, I think I'm right in saying, would be Rose Lane. And I guess this sort of ties into the number of permits that we've got, the ratio against a ratio of permits in a car park, how many are in use during the daytime, how many are in use in the evening, etc. I'm just wondering whether that, and particularly in relation to St Andrews, because if you're at the let me get this right, the northern end of Hitchin Street, so where most of the shops are, there's potentially workers that within those businesses that their closest place to park is Rose Lane, that it might be helpful if there was an option to park in St Andrews. I'm not sure whether other members feel the same, but it's something that I think we potentially could consider. But it's only worth considering if we know what proportion of permits have been used in already. So I can't say it should go forward, but I think we should be considering that one. And a similar conversation relating to Rose Lane car park. Again, we've got Rose Lane, we've got Church Street, we've got Claremont Court, we've got the High Street, we've got Chapel Fields. What we don't have is Sun Street, and it seems to me that Sun Street is particularly problematic for residents to park, given the number of this number of houses that don't have dedicated parking. So I'll ask them whether it's something we could consider, not necessarily now, but that we should be considering this as an option as well. I'm not sure what other members think. Funnily enough, Councillor Skilton has pretty much covered all the other points that I'd noted. So with the exception that the operational permits, whether we include that in the policy or don't include it in the policy, but the first line of that particular additional comment does relate to permits being applied for by the Town Council. And I think whether we include it or not, that line, it shouldn't be necessary. We should be allocating those permits. So I think there's a little bit of tidying up to do in some of the wording and what's applicable here. I'm not sure whether I'm completely comfortable approving a policy at this stage. I think there's a little bit of work before it comes back, but it potentially could come back. I think it could come back to this committee, but do we need to wait until February? Probably not. I think it's one of those ones where if we can type a few things, get it agreed with, perhaps with the chairman and deputy chairman of the committee, maybe with a couple of other members, we then tidy it up a little bit of the wording and then move forward. So I know I've talked a bit here, but I think there's certainly concerns around the sort of northern part of Hitchin Street and Sun Street, which I would like for us to consider, but perhaps other members can comment on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, go to the vote.
Yeah, I mean, can we say that we'll vote to agree to this policy subject to a wording agreement made by the chair, deputy chair, and any other members. This is quite an important document.
I think there's
for
quite a
us.
lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah,
before we
yeah. So I
can-
don't know whether it, whether it's
Sorry.
worth setting up a small working group.
Okay. Councillor Strawn?
May I make a proposal that this committee agrees it in principle, subject to a review of the final wording by chairman, vice chairman of this committee, and say mayor and deputy mayor, and that subject to that, the full document just be placed to council with a recommendation of those members that we accept it.
Okay. Is there anybody to second that proposal? Thank you, Councillor Knight. Okay, all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Right, item 7C, members to receive a written report by the place shaping manager regarding the 80th D-Day anniversary. Is there any additions to add to the report? Okay, the recommendation is to accept the report. Is there any questions from members? No? Should we? Oh. Sorry,
Well, while
Councillor
other
Strawn.
members are thinking, I noticed that first suggestion was collaboration with a Biggleswade church, and then second suggestion that looking in collaboration with all the churches. I think it should, for an event of this nature, it should be with all churches rather than just one particular faith.
Okay, that's taken on board. Councillor Alban, did you? Oh, sorry, I thought you had your hand up there. No? Oh, is it?
I've since had a conversation. I think it was with Councillor Woodhead, and he explained that there was an appetite from the churches to collaborate. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. There's no further questions. No, we can go to
The recommendation.
Yeah. Okay. So all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? No. Abstain. No. Item 9D. So yeah, 9D, the Big Eats, members to receive and consider a report by the place shaping manager. Is there anything to add to that report? No. Any questions from the members? Councillor Skilton?
Yeah, just a point on the source and the commercial bin. Is that like a big wheelie bin? Obviously, we want to make sure that doesn't detract from the look and feel of the event. And might it be more appropriate to try and get the contractors to pick up some of the litter afterwards, and the vendors, like you would do with maybe fast food restaurants and things like that in the town, rather than a bin which may incur a cost to the council?
Okay, would you like to respond to that?
It was. I had a wash-up meeting with the organisers, and following the second event, it was noted that there was the bins filled up much quicker, and they didn't have enough hands on deck to empty it into bags, and they also didn't have a place to store it when they did have it in bags. So it was a commercial bin that they were proposing would be kept out of the way of the market square, perhaps in the compound area if there's space. Yeah, hence the inclusion. Thanks.
And how would the litter get into the bin? Who's picking it up?
Sure. It would be a conversation that I'd have with the organisers. My own view would be that we ask them to have more people there that would be doing the litter picking, seeing as it's not a BTC exclusive event.
I think that was in the agreement, but I'm not sure that they are responsible.
Yeah, I can't recall, but obviously the recommendation includes that a third party agreement would go to TCM in February, so it'd be picked up then.
Okay. Councillor Strawn?
Yes, I've noted the report and the recommendation. However, I'm going to put forward a proposal to see what members think of it. And that is very much based on the recommendation suggested by officers, but slightly amended. And this is for members to agree in principle that the Big Eats to proceed monthly from April 2024 to September 2024, subject to a third-party agreement being presented at TCM in February 2024 being agreed, and council being satisfied as to the financial arrangements, because there is reference in the report to a growth plan being prepared and coming to the budgeting process. And I think it's important that we don't lose sight of the finances in that respect. So I'll move that motion, and I have got it roughly written down here for the other clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Strawn. Do we have someone to second the proposal? Yeah, thank you. Right, let's go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstaining? Moving on to item for information number 10A. For members to receive a written report by the place shaping manager for the Christmas light switch on. Do you have any additions? No? Okay, any questions? Councillor Knight.
So a question, which I think the report notes there was an interview held on the 13th, so I wondered if you could share the output of that, but if I could make a few other points as well. So I guess I feel a little frustrated that at a couple of points this year, we've had discussions about vehements from the Christmas lights, and those vehements were made to other budgets, and we were assured there was sufficient money. But now officers are saying there's not enough money for an ice rink, which is something that members have talked about. So that feels slightly inconsistent. But at the risk of making a bit of a fool of myself, if I look at figure 2, I don't quite understand it, because if projected income is 4,000, if I look at the low estimate, the projected income is 4,320, the cost is 4,500. So if variance is profit or loss, that would be a loss of £180. Or is my math really bad?
Yeah, no, apologies. I amended the figure because the time slot changed from 1 hour to half an hour, and
Okay.
I've obviously not amended the variance, so apologies.
So based on the worst case, if it is the worst case, being 180 quid loss, I think it's worth flying and giving it a go, actually. So that's my comment. But maybe you could answer the MC question, thanks.
Yeah, unfortunately, the MC that I was going to be interviewing was sick on the day that I was supposed to be meeting them. So I'm waiting to hear back from them at the moment. So when they're feeling better enough that I can meet with them.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Strawn.
Well, I'm not really too clear what's been agreed and what we're deciding on from this report. Firstly, and from a very practical point of view, Station Road is mentioned. Have we got a road closure order for Station Road, which I presume is from the back street to the roundabout? So that has been agreed. Yeah. But with us talk about this ice rink, and have we agreed an ice rink? I'm not really sure from what the report is saying. It's got lots of ideas in it, and I'm not really sure that we've actually got fruition about what the actual plan is for the event. And so I'm a little bit confused as to what's happening on Christmas light switch on. I notice all the aspirations, but I don't actually see anything that really is quite clear as to timetabling or anything else. So I note the report, but it doesn't really tell me anything, and I'm not a bit concerned about what's going to happen on the day. Maybe the place shaping manager can comment.
Yeah, just in terms of the ice rink, this was something that was included on the last TCM report as a potential that we could do, but it wasn't included in terms of the recommendations of the supplies that we proceed with. The chairman expressed a desire to see the figures, hence their inclusion in the report, but officers have recommended not to proceed on the basis of no budget, hence why it's a report to note and not consider. In terms of the traders and the detail of the lineups, I have that all. I can share that with members in another format if they'd like to see that detail at this stage. But yeah.
Councillor Strawn.
Yes, but it doesn't actually mention anything about the actual switch on of the lights or anything like that. It's going down part of the other route, but it's not the whole story as far as I can see. So it would be very helpful if members could have a more detailed update, possibly not tonight, but so that all members of the council can actually be aware of what's going to be happening on the day, who's going to be appearing, what arrangements there are for the switch on, etc. What school choirs or adult choirs are singing, etc.
Thank you. Councillor Knight.
Okay, maybe I'm going to go to a proposal then. So I don't know what the cutoff is for deciding about an ice rink. Presumably there's not that much time to decide. This is a report to note. I think there's quite a lot of detail maybe members would like. Maybe I propose that we note this report, but schedule a lunchtime Zoom meeting for interested members to dig into this in a bit more detail and to look to make a recommendation to council about whether we proceed with the ice rink or not. How does that sound?
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Foster. Right, let's go to the vote. All those in favour? And all those against? Any abstentions, please? Yep. Item 10B, the car parking machine update for members to receive a written report by the place shaping manager. Anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I spoke with Flowbird today, and there's no further updates in terms of where the software is at, but they have assured me that as soon as it is ready, they will coordinate a time for the demo van to come here so that members can try the software in the flesh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any members' questions to that? Councillor Alban?
I've got a number of questions. Shall I do them one at a time, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So for transparency and for the record, there's a number of places in the report where it mentions members or several members, but we don't know who those members are. So I think we should it should be reported who the members were that were canvassed for views and kept updated during this process, and also the members that attended the project launch. So can we know that, please?
Yep.
Yeah. So I invited the relevant committee chairmen. So in my view, that was the mayor, the deputy mayor, the chairman of TCM, and the deputy chairman of TCM. Those 4 members were invited to the original project launch meeting with Flowbird, and then were consulted with thereafter in terms of all of the details that the report talks around the specification changes, with also the addition of Councillor Strawn partway through.
Thank you.
So yeah, I wanted to ask about the software changes. So regarding the software changes to do with putting a receipt option in for ticket lists, is that causing, or would it potentially cause a delay to the implementation of this? The software is still under test, so is it likely to cause any delays?
That was in part the reason why it has been delayed so far. So there were queries that were sent to Flowbird when this started in terms of whether a receipt option was available. During the tender demonstrations, both officers and members' recollection was that this was part of the offer. But when officers then asked for the receipt option to be added, they were told that it wasn't possible. So officers queried this, and several weeks later, Flowbird said that it was possible. They've been conducting tests. Officers sent them a sample of the receipt roll that we have in the current machines and have been given assurance that it is possible now.
Thank you.
So following on, still talking about the software changes. So are these changes a customization that are only apply to BTC, or are they going to be rolled into the standard product? Because if they stay as customizations for just us, will that cause us any issue if following an update to the standard software? Will it need retesting at that point?
I think the software changes are broad. They're across all of their car park machines. It's the specification template was essentially around things such as how would you like the your town council name spelled out in the receipt? How would you like the tariffs to be on the machine? Questions around whether you want to charge on bank holidays or not. The specification that Flowbed sent to officers was the one that was originally submitted for the machines that we currently have, but checking whether the information was still up to date and accurate. So it shouldn't affect when they have future software updates. My understanding is those would be done without any issue overnight.
Okay, but it sounds like some of those are configuration, but the actual change to get a receipt for a ticketless purchase, that sounds a little bit more involved. So that's the question. Would that change stay as a customization for us and cause us problems in future upgrades, or is it something that is rolled into the product?
I personally don't get the impression it's going to have any effect on future if there's upgrades or anything of the sort. No.
Just to follow on from that, Isaac, sorry, Chairman, if I may. So we did speak about having the receipts as part of the initial project, and were confirmed that it could be part of the spec, and then they weren't able to deliver it, as you said. Am I right in saying, as well as part of this process, there's sort of two types of software that are being amalgamated, so they sort of Flowbed are working through, or did I miss the point there? There's something when we met with them that they were just working through a combination of two pieces of software to essentially make one that works, because clearly it does work, but there's two companies that are merging and going forward. So that's part of why I think maybe they thought they could do it, and then there's been a challenge there. I think that was one question. So maybe do that one first, and then.
So Flowbed acquired Your Parking Space, which is predominant. My understanding is it's a predominantly app-based parking ticket system, with the added benefit of introducing a new back office management system. That Flowbed were originally using something called Smartfolio. Your Parking Space will eventually be transitioned into the back office management system, and it's much sleeker. During the demonstrations that officers and members attended, my own view, having used the current back office system, was that the new one would be much better. It provides officers with access to much more data that can inform decisions on EV chargers, motorcycle parking bays, anything like that.
Thank you. Could I just have one other? And I think I know the answer to this. I'm going to ask the question in there, and this is relating to the email on the 27th September and the dimensions and weights of pallets. Perhaps you could just expand on that, please.
Yeah, so Flowbed had advised that the hardware was ready to deliver. I had some questions around whether the software was pre-uploaded and bits like that, but they assured me that the software changes could continue to be made and it would be updated onto the machines at a later date, even if they had already been delivered. But essentially that delivery has been postponed because it's 3 large pallets of hardware that would sit taking up space in the council's depot until they were ready to be installed. My own view is that they should be delivered far closer to the installation date, so we minimise any risk of damage or anything else to the machines.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strawn?
Yep. Thank you. If it helps Councillor Allbone a bit further, when we the tender document went out and covered all these things such as tickets, etc., and the presentations also did that. But I believe also I'm correct in saying that Flowbed indicated that the software was sufficiently user-friendly that our officers can be trained so as to extract the information that we want from the system as and when necessary. And indeed, I think it is possible for officers after they've been trained to actually make amendments to charging, etc., as and when necessary if things change. So I think that was all covered in the process of the tender and the acceptance of it. So they seem to have made a bit of a meal, frankly, out of the ticket side. I think that the officers and the members that have seen it, and I think you were at one of the presentations, I'm not sure it was the Flowbird one, Councillor Allbone, but I think we did cover all these points at the time. So hopefully that's answered the questions, and hopefully it's going to work smoothly when it's installed.
Thank you. Councillor Alban, yep.
Yeah, I was at those presentations, but what I'm assuming here is this is actual change to the software. So it's not that we would have to configure it differently. It's change to the software, which nobody in the council would do. My fear is that it's a customization that might get lost or whatever in the future. So I'd like to be sort of, I'd like to know if that's a possibility. But on a slightly different topic, the report talks about signs and putting vinyl on with the different instructions that are needed. But the White Hart sign is looking a little bit sort of lopsided, so I hope that can be sort of addressed as part of this.
Thank you. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I will go back to Flowbird RE software and get some assurances around future compatibility with software updates, etc. White Hart car park as noted, and it is in progress in terms of getting that sorted. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll install a little bit of humour into the debate maybe. The reason why we're smiling is that we had a conversation this morning about this very same subject, and I spoke to Isaac and said, please can this be sorted as a matter of urgency? So yeah, but it's in hand, would you believe? Yeah.
Thank you. Right, recommendation for the members to note the report, so. Yep. All those in favour? All those against? Anybody abstain? Nope, excellent. Right, item 10C, Remembrance Sunday update. For members to receive a written report by the place shaping manager. Is there any additions or anything on that one? No? Is there any questions from the members or observations? Councillor Strawn?
Yes, I know we're going to meet at the transport interchange. Does that mean we're going to be allowed to walk through the bus gate? And so I don't seem to be any buses in the transport interchange at the moment, or are we going to meet on the railway forecourt as in the past?
Go for it.
Officers have had permission from CBC to use the bus interchange. The railway court is out of bounds. I had an email response from, I think it was GNR, stating that it could not be used.
Thank you. Councillor Alban?
Yeah, I just want to make the same point as I did in the last item about members. It says officers and a few members meet intermittently. It'd be nice to know who those members are, if it could be reported. But also on the transport interchange, so we've got permission to use that this year. Is that going to be a problem in the future, given that what I've just heard that we're not allowed to use the railway forecourt any longer? Could it be a problem in the future that we don't have much in the way of Sunday services, bus services, that is, but you know, that might change in the future. And I don't know what happens if, to my knowledge, it hasn't happened so far, but if there's engineering works, for instance, and on the line, then often the buses would be used as a replacement, and they would use that area. Could that be an issue in the future?
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah. I think the fallback option would be to do what we did last year that worked quite well and was quite received by the RBL and other stakeholders, in the sense of mustering the parade on Hitchin Street, and then sort of a shorter route, but obviously avoiding any complications with buses. But I will continue to email CBC officers as far in advance as possible to get permission to use the bus interchange. And obviously, if there's issues, officers will consult with RBL and stakeholders to mitigate those issues. In terms of your question as well around the members, it was Councillor Woodhead. Councillor Russell was normally involved, but has given her apologies for some of the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster?
Just on that point, and given that I think Councillor Alvin's made a valid point around members, I think it's probably worth us considering how we do that. And that's not necessarily inviting every member to everything, but it seems to be a valid point that if there's perhaps a member of a committee, so we've got perhaps the chairman and deputy chairman, and then make sure that other members of the relevant committee are aware of it, and so that it's an invitation there. Appreciate that having every member of the committee there, but the chance of every member of the committee being in attendance is probably quite slim. So certainly making members of the committees, the relevant committees, aware, I think it would be helpful, so that we're sort of mitigating that challenge there. From my point of view, in relation to the Remembrance Sunday update, one of the things that strikes me is that as members, we obviously participate in, we're walking, and I don't know whether it's anybody else. We get to a certain point within the parade, and then there's a little bit of an uncertainty about where we stand, and I think that's probably maybe that's not everyone, but if you're a new councillor not seen it before, you're relying on other members to lead. And you're relying obviously as the leader of the parade to sort of direct you. So I think that there's potential for us to be a little bit more informed about what's happening. So the order of service comes out, but it's almost like what's the expectation of where we stand? I'm not saying for everybody, but for some new members, perhaps in particular, it would be helpful to have this is what the route is, this is where we will stand, this is at what point, if we're displaying wreaths, etc. What happens? What's the format? Because having certainly myself on one occasion gone in through the wrong place and come out the wrong place, it can be awkward and embarrassing. And I think it's bear in mind this is a formal event. The more we can limit any public faux pas, if you like, the better. So if we can help members and other members of the public within that format, that I think might be helpful.
Catherine, over to you.
I have asked my colleague Ms Dennis to support with putting together an email that will go out to all members with FAQs, with all the information members could hopefully need.
Thank you. Right, any further questions? Nope. Recommendations. No? All right. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstaining? No? Excellent. Item 10E, sorry, 10D, the Vintage Vehicle Day for members to receive a written report by the place shaping manager. Is there any? No additions? Any questions in relation to the vehicle day? No. So recommendations. Sorry, I'm still waiting if there's any questions. Okay, so members to note the report, and all those in favour? All those against? Any abstain? No? Excellent. And items 10E, CCTV update for members to receive a written report by the place shaping manager. Is there any additions to?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I understand the installation is going as planned. No issues besides the one flagged in the last paragraph of the report around relocating the mobile camera currently situated in the White Hart car park to Rose Lane and getting permission from CBC on that.
Thank you. Any questions, please? Councillor Straw.
Yes, I'm just puzzled by the very final sentence of the report because it's reference to a Biggleswade Town Council owned lamppost. Where is that lamppost? Because I thought we'd actually got rid of all our lampposts to Central Beds Council a few years ago.
Yeah, I could have perhaps phrased it to floodlight instead. It's the newly installed one, the one that replaced the one that was knocked over by a vehicle recently. It's just that location is more in the corner of the car park as opposed to the CBC owned camera, which is more central.
Right, so it's a lamppost in the car park rather than.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Orban.
Yeah, on that issue, I'm assuming that we're not likely to get any difficulties in getting permission from CBC over use of their lampposts.
I would hope not. I know my my colleague, Mr. Hussaini, has followed up on this today as well.
Thank you. Okay, recommendations for members to note the report. Yep, all those in favour? All those against? Anybody abstain? No. So, item 11, public open session. Is there anybody online? No, nobody wishes to speak. Right. I think that's the end of the meeting, right?